paying attention. We are starting very, very soon.
We're live.
We're live. Hope everyone's doing okay out there. By out there, I mean not in here. My name is Joel Adkins. My Twitter handle is Mr. Adkins, like Mr. Adkins. And welcome to my office, which is right now very empty. I'm moving locations in about 2 days. I'm moving up to Crandall, ISD. I'll be living out of Rockwell. And all of my stuff, all this stuff and things on the desk, they're already actually up there. So I'm just waiting to finish up my time here, and then I will be going up there. I have on air with me Carl. Carl, you want to wave or say hi real quick?
Hi. And I'm waving.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
Carl is going to be interviewed by me today. Carl and I, we talked about this idea that I had a while back about creating. Oh my gosh, you're drinking your tea.
Yeah.
About having a place where like our colleagues, our peers can go online and interview each other, ask each other questions about the profession that we're in, and kind of sharing those ideas with a wider audience. I think that with blogs and with Twitter, we kind of get into talking about what we do, but we don't really get to know the people. And so the idea behind this was to get to know the person behind all their awards and achievements, Mr. Hooker.
Tell them the real inspiration for this. What was the show you said you watched on Comedy Central, or what was it, the comics with coffee and there you go.
Yeah, comedians in cars getting coffee. I do reference that show because it started out with Jerry Seinfeld as the producer of the show, and the whole concept is he goes and gets a vintage vehicle, probably from his own collection because he made a lot of money, and picks up celebrity comedians in the car, and they just banter and carry on, and then they go get coffee and they talk about comedy. They actually talk about the kind of relationship to the audience and how they write and just comedy in general. It's really, really interesting because there you have a comedian interviewing another comedian about their field of comedy. So the ideas really stem from that, and just conversations that I've had with Carl before and with other people about why can't we have these conversations kind of curated online in an interview way that the articles and the tweets and the blogs don't cover. So that's really the impetus for this idea.
So it's, instead of comedians in cars with coffee, it's ed techs on a hangout with iced tea.
And Sonic.
Oh, even better. Oh, that should be another staple. So in these, you have to have some sort of beverage with you.
Right.
Non-alcoholic, please. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because like talk shows, they always have a mug. You always see a mug sitting on the desk. You know why it's a mug?
I do not know that.
I mean, why wouldn't it be a bottle of water?
I imagine for show logos, maybe? I'm not sure.
Everything that I saw online about it said that it was a way to sell the mug that you find in the gift shop, but also having the handle on it made it easier to just take sips. If you have a bottle of water, the guest, usually their hands will shake.
Ah, good to know.
Because you're pinching it like this. Your hand is a lot more steadier. There's your little talk show tip of the week.
And now I've learned something today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we're going to get started. I have a little bio here about Carl.
Oh boy.
One thing that I'm gonna say it. I've known Carl for a little while. I got to be honest. Carl and I, we used to work together when I worked in Eads. We were both campus technology coordinators. He was at the elementary, one of the elementaries, and I was at the high school. And Carl and I got in trouble a lot. Like we weren't even allowed to sit near each other in meetings.
Yeah, we figured out a way to figure out some sort of weird back channel chat with GroupWise that no one else knew about.
That's right. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. In GroupWise, we had our own chat room. Oh man, I hope that was deleted when I left. But yeah, we had in Skype. Thank goodness for Skype. I mean, it's really saved us in meetings because we would literally get separated, physically separated from each other, or told we couldn't sit by each other, and we still would talk on Skype, or at least make faces across the room of disagreement, whatever was going on there. But Carl is, well, I want to say this. your website, Hooked on Innovation. I don't know if you know, the tagline is still there. It says, "Hooked on Innovation. When innovation slaps you in the face, we slap back." Do you know that? Did you know that still said that?
I think I put that on there not too long ago. Actually, I didn't have a tagline before. The tagline was awful, so I just was tinkering around one night and put that down, and then I think I left it.
Oh, well, I like it. So if you want anything,
It would make more sense to say, when innovation slaps you, I'm the hand on the end of that arm, or something like that. I mean, it seems like that would be better. I don't know.
a paragraph. Make it a paragraph.
Yeah.
You can find Carl on Twitter. He is Mr. Hooker, like it says. I think it says that on your. Where's that piece of paper you just had a second ago?
Oh, right here.
Oh, it's just Hooker. He is the hooker of the web.
Yes, I am.
He is also on hookedoninnovation.com. You can also find him on the Eanes ISD website. He's also at edtechteacher.org. And he's got special honors this month. He's in the Tech and Learning magazine as a, what is it, leader, educational tech leader of the year.
Yeah. 2014 Leader of the Year. That was a surprise, but very honored.
That is quite an honor. He is also host of iPad Palooza, which starts next week. Are you getting nervous about that?
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, if you could see the rest of my office, and probably the fact that I'm not wearing pants anymore, you would know that I'm very nervous.
Oh my goodness, that's a little too much information.
Yeah, too much information.
Here we go. This is your card. Educator since 1998. He's currently the Director of Innovation and Digital Learning, nice title, in Eanes ISD. He spearheaded the LEAP initiative, going one-to-one with iPads for all grade levels K through 12. Created iPad Palooza. This is the third year, am I right?
Yep, third year.
Excellent. Paperless District using Google Apps. He's a consultant with edtechteacher.org. Apple Distinguished Educator 2013. Something that wasn't on your bio, you were a TechSig officer for 3 years, finishing it out in 2013. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
And like we said, Tech and Learning Magazine's 2014 Leader of the Year. Whew, man, that is some introduction.
I'm gonna. Now I feel like there's a lot of pressure. You're gonna expect some sort of amazing pearls of wisdom on a Tuesday afternoon when I've been stressing out and I haven't slept in 2 days.
Perfect.
This will be perfect, yeah.
All right, we're gonna hit the questions.
Okay.
First question. I want you to your title is Director of Innovation and Digital Learning. Bottom line it. Describe to the audience what it is you do.
Well, there's a interesting activity we did just about a month ago with an Apple event that happened where they said, "What does your job title say on your card, on your on your badge, and what should it actually say? Like, what do you actually do?" And I feel like I just got my job titles changed, so I'm really excited about it. But I would say that my problem, if I had to come up with an actual title for myself, I'd say I'm a creative agitator of sorts, meaning I just kind of poke and prod and look for ways in which we can get better. It doesn't always work out that way, I'll admit it. So what I actually do on a regular basis, though, besides that kind of nebulous answer, is I have a great team of ed techs that I'm happy to be a leader of, but I say leader in the sense that it's very flat. I feel like we're all on the same team together. Do a lot of training, a lot of professional development in district. Right now, we're, of course, doing this event, iPad Palooza, so I'm spending a lot of time with that. But before that, I built up with Summer PD, did a lot of work with that prior to this, and then a little bit of everything else. Like literally today, I could tell you, I had the HR department come in, and they were asking me, how do they digitize, you have to do those mandatory bloodborne sex diseases or whatever. I don't think that's the actual word for it, but you get the idea.
It's a fun training. I recommend using puppets.
Well, they don't necessarily want to make it fun, but they want to make it digital, so they come to me and say, hey, how do we do this? What's a great way to make it digital, and we can get it signed and verified, knowing that people that are going to get this are going to have every type of device, no demand. Some people don't even have iPads, because we're talking every staff member in the entire district. So it's those little things, kind of those ideas, and then of course working with the state. Lately, I've been doing a lot of work trying to get our state agencies to allow us to use iPads for testing. So kind of doing some work there, which is always interesting, and probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life in the last 10 years since I said I do to somebody in Las Vegas. That would be my wife, by the way. Yeah.
I hope so.
She became a hooker in Las Vegas. I think that working with legislatures, that's kind of my next big thing. I got reached out today by the Department of Education. Carolyn Foote, who's a colleague of both Joel and myself, she's been over there in D.C., so they just reached out to me actually about doing some work with them. So that would be exciting because it doesn't get much bigger than that. So I jokingly sent them a message saying I'm here to help them write their ed tech plan for the future, and I'll be waiting for their call.
Oh, wow.
No pressure.
No pressure, man. Well, let me ask you this. Let's go back in time. What type of student were you in school? Let's think middle school, junior high, high school. What kind of student in the classroom were you?
You know, people always are just shocked when I tell them that I was actually a very good, obedient student, and people just think that's not true. I like to work with adults a lot more than I did with kids, so I mean, I was always helping the teachers out. My senior year, I didn't have many classes to take. I was at a little 2A school outside of El Paso, and there wasn't much for me to do, so I really helped co-teach some classes, which got me kind of into education a little bit. But I was a great student. I went to Catholic school when I was in elementary for a few years, so Sister Mary Elephant and the ruler. Every now and then I'd get a little bit of ruler on the back of the hand just for talking out of turn, but it was usually because I was always asking questions about things, especially theological things that I needed scientific evidence for, and they weren't pleased with me. So yeah, I got kicked out a couple times at Sunday school for those kind of comments. Just kind of thinking out loud, like, why do we do this? And the worst thing you can always ask is kind of why sometimes, but in any area. But in Catholic school, that's definitely a no-no. So for the most part, I was a pretty good kid.
What made you want to become an educator?
Well, I went to UT to become an architectural engineer, and when I got here, I realized that it was not an architect, which is what I want to be when I grow up, by the way, George Costanza. And so I thought, I'll just go into architectural engineering, which sounds great. I got a scholarship. I got there, and after a couple of years, I was like, this is just black and white. It's very boring. I wasn't very motivated or excited about it. My mom had been a teacher for a few years. My dad, it turned out, had actually gone to school to become an educator, and I didn't know that at the time. So one Christmas, I remember I was here at UT, and I didn't come home that Christmas, and I was like just debating what I'm going to do with my life, and I said, I think I want to go to education, and my parents actually were very supportive of it, which was great, and everything immediately changed after that. I was a lot more motivated to go to classes on time. I was just very excited about what I was doing, the work I was doing, and then just working with kids. Once I got in the classroom, I loved it. It just kind of took off from there. But true story, I actually, my last year of student teaching, had these advisory teachers that kind of watch over, the observation stuff that you had to do. This teacher, the one lady who was actually observing me said, and I just gotten a job with Austin ISD before I even graduated. And so she was very kind of put off by that. So she told me that first of all, she would fail me just so I wouldn't graduate. And then secondly, she actually at one point sat me down and said that I needed to think about going into some other field other than education because she didn't think I had it. I was too friendly with the kids. And I set the expectations way too high with them. And I thought, wow, what a great thing to say to somebody that's trying to go into education. So I use that to motivate me to get even better. When you have people like that training teachers, that's kind of scary. I don't know where that lady ended up, to be honest, but I did send her a picture of my Teacher of the Year award about 3 years later.
Maybe you should send her a subscription to Tech and Learning. Well, why not?
Right.
Icing on the cake.
That would be perfect. My student teacher actually just posted that on Facebook. My old student teacher, she's not old, but she was a student teacher of mine in 2001, and she goes, I'm reading this magazine, and all of a sudden I see this guy, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know him. He was my mentor teacher, and I was like, isn't that scary? But true.
I mean, it's either you or Dave Grohl. I can't ever remember.
It's hard. Yeah, I need to grow the hair out a little more.
Yeah, I remember when you had longer hair. It was like, is that Carl or Dave Grohl? I can't.
There's a picture of me with dreadlocks somewhere out there. I'll just tell you. It's probably not on the internet because that was pre-internet. And there's also a picture of me with I had blonde highlights one summer. I might have been working at Eanes then, Joel. I can't remember. But one summer I decided to go with the blonde highlights, and my head looked like a leopard.
Wow.
So it didn't really work well. You have to have longer
I
hair to really make that work.
Well, speaking of ideas,
Yeah, good and bad.
where do you get your ideas, or where do ideas come from for you, or how are you inspired?
Um, this is really odd, but lately it's been at like early in the morning. I think when all my head's kind of cleared out, I've actually gotten some sleep, and I'll go out and I'll run, um, and jog or walk or whatever. It's not really much running, but I try to get out there and move, and I play some just kind of background music, usually like a dubstep or some sort of electronic stuff that you can kind of has a good rhythm to it. And when I get out there at that point in the morning, for some reason, these thoughts just start flying in my head. It's really strange, and thank goodness I'm running with a device in my hand. So while I'm doing that, I'll pull out the Note app and slow down and walk a little bit and just jot down some ideas. So this idea for next week, where I'm going to try to break a Guinness Book of World Record using iPads, is which I haven't really talked about much outwardly in the public, but it came from one of these runs just recently, and I was like, oh, we got to try this. I got to be able to try this and see if we can make it work. So it's at that, and then I would say probably the other is like right afterwards in the shower, just thinking, I wish I had a way of writing down some stuff. But it seems like, and most people say that that's where they get a lot of their good ideas. But yeah, it's kind of like you're isolated, you're thinking, there's something rhythmic and kind of calming about the water. Because then once you start opening up email, man, the ideas just flatline, and then they're gone. Because then you have to start dealing with kind of the actual real world stuff that's happening. So that wasn't really where as much as when and why and how.
I was literally going to clarify.
Yeah. So they come out of kind of anywhere and anything. A lot, to be honest, when I'm really kind of pressed for time, I look for things that I like that are popular, pop culture, ideas like that. I look on Twitter. I look for things that are kind of out there, and I think, okay, how can I take that and remix it? Because a lot of the best ideas ever made weren't exactly original as much as they were just like kind of spins on something else. And so, or I mean, I listen too. I mean, I listen to my team. I listen to other folks. And I think, like, what are some things they're just talking about, and then I try to take their kind of concepts and figure out a way to make it kind of my own in certain ways, and still give them credit for it. The word iPad Palooza was not my word, actually. It was Mariana Hussein, which is someone that Joel and I know very well. We were in a meeting, and I was saying, man, I want to have like an iConference or some sort of thing that we can all just gather people in Central Texas and get together. But the word iConference just sounded terrible. And she said, you should make it like a fun event, like an iPad Palooza. And I was like, that's perfect. So we took that and ran with it. So it was her, I mean, in a meeting, and then we just kind of built on the idea from there. So they kind of come from everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've found, like, for me, you're right. It's you like you listen to things, you read things, and it's like I like your idea of the remix. How can I apply that? It's not like a direct copy. It's how can I apply that to the situation I'm in, right?
Right. I've got an advertisement, a little commercial that I have to make in the next week because I'm going to debut it at the end of iPad Palooza. And so for the last month, I've been thinking about ideas, and of course with me, sometimes I need pressure to really make it work. And so now that I know I'm a week away and I haven't even done anything yet, I woke up this morning, and right when I was getting ready to exercise, I started thinking about some concept, and I was like, I'm going to take a lot of people have done this, but I'm going to take the Apple kind of commercial idea with the white screen, the guy off center kind of talking over here saying, and this is how we do things here, and then build this idea for this commercial that I'm going to actually make for something we're going to promote next week at iPad Palooza. But sometimes those ideas, they're coming from things that you and I, we come across stuff all the time. And it's like, wow, that's great, but we can make it a little bit better with this. I remember when you got into connective type, and that year we all decided, you and I think you were in Kerrville, and we're going to make these crazy advertisements with kinetic text about our summer PD, and so we both kind of made our own versions of it using Prezi or whatever, and then we're just waiting for that to kind of explode, and it turned out that you and I were the only two that ever did it. But sometimes that's okay, they don't always have to be crazy ideas that everybody loves. But
yeah, I tell you, when I go to Alamo Drafthouse, they have those trailers and those little 15-second little advertisements. My mind is blown, and I'm like, I want to recreate that, but I don't know anything about how to do that. I don't have any production talent or background. And I remember seeing they took the Conan O'Brien's speech when he was leaving the Tonight Show, and they made it like this kinetic text thing that moved around, and I was like, oh man, I want to do that, but I think I can fake it in Prezi and screen capture it. And
Yeah.
that's what I did on that staff development. It was like I saw this idea over here, and I wanted it to fit over here, but I didn't have any skill level to make that happen except Prezi.
And that's, I mean, honestly, we don't have the time to go through that kind of investment. So, and plus the tools get better. I mean, I think now you can do it with Keynote. Someone told me you could just take Keynote Magic Move and screen record it and have your words kind of flying across the screen. So, I mean, the technology will continue to get faster. It's just a matter of how and who can apply it, I think, in a lot of ways.
You were talking about people you work with. Here's a question I had. What do you think your colleagues, meaning the people that you work with day in and day out, what do you think they say about you behind your back?
I hope, first of all, that they say it also to my face. I'm pretty open about that. I really get worried, honest, and this is the honest truth. I get worried that there's a point, and maybe it's happening now, where I'm not approachable, and that scares me to death. So when I have, like, a lot of my ed techs will send me, like just little direct messages like, hey, I've got a question about this, or, I don't know if this is the greatest idea, or this sounded like you were saying this, and I thank them all the time for that, because I say I don't want them ever to be scared to come to me and say, yeah, this is an idea. And honestly, the number one person who probably controls more of the ideas in Eanes than anybody is not an employee at Eanes. It's my wife, who I'll bounce ideas off her all the time about, hey, I got this great idea about trying this, and then she kind of gives me the layperson perspective. I'm like, yeah, that might not really go over too well. I mean, think about how you're saying that, or think about how you're presenting it, and you're coming across. She can tell when I'm in a mood, and she'll say, you're coming across a little, arrogant or a little too much. People that don't know you would take that the wrong way. And so I've tried to pare that back a lot. And the whole, hashtag big deal thing is a joke, and it's been a joke forever. But the funny thing is, now I took it off my Twitter handle because I ran into George Couros at a conference, and he said, well, so I got to ask you, what is this about you being a big deal? I mean, do you really believe that? And I was like, I go, no, it's a joke. It's just, but when you see it, it looks like maybe I really think that. So, and that was just because of a friend of ours, Gina, who I think you know too. Gina Dodd works with data projection. She was like joking around 3 years or 4 years ago at TCA. She's like, this guy's a big deal. This guy's a big deal. She kept saying it as a joke. And then eventually people just started doing it as a joke, and then it kind of caught on. So anyway, I kind of rambled. I have no idea where I went there with that one. Bring us back, host. Bring us back.
Well, it was just, about what do you think your colleagues say about you, whether they're able to approach you on a topic. What are the kinds of comments they would say about you? Like, what kind of leader are you? What do you think the people that work around you say about that?
Well, besides being approachable, I think I'm open, which I guess are kind of the same thing when I think about it. But open to new ideas and open to change, open to taking risks, and trying things out if they're for the betterment of the kids and betterment of the district. And so I don't want to ever be known as a roadblock. I want to be known as kind of a person that gets people to where they need to go. And if they really have something that inspires them, I want to make it happen for them as best we can. I know that's not always hard or easy in education because of policies and just other kind of general things we have to worry with, but I want to be seen as that person that can make things happen in a lot of ways. So I hope they say that behind my back. Like, that's if I need help, if I need inspiration, if I need an idea just to get something off the ground, they can come to me and I'll help them out. And really just to be there to help them as much as I can. So, and sometimes I know it's hard because I'm doing 1,000 other things, but even today, and I had a secretary came in today, was asking for help with something. She's like, I know you're really busy. And I was like, no, please sit down. Let's, and it was something, a simple little thing that I hadn't taught her yet. And we went over it a couple times. She's like, oh, I got this now, easy peasy. So it's just, I want to be able to help people more than anything else.
Good.
Hopefully that's what they say.
Yeah. They just say he's too busy. Don't bother him.
I do have my on the air light on right now, by the way, which I got installed in my office. There's a little switch that says on the air, so the doors close and people know that I'm actually.
What better way to say don't bother me than that?
I think one time I actually turned it on when I wasn't on the air. I hate to admit that on the air, but yes.
All right. Let me ask you this: how do you identify your allies when you're trying out new ideas?
I usually by height. I try to see who's the tallest, and then I say, okay, I can, no. This is a funny question because I don't always, I mean, I usually go for people that have like-minded ideas, obviously ideals, things that we've talked about, we've had conversations about where we need to go in education. And then sometimes I'll go the counter of that, and I'll try to find somebody who I know is going to shoot it full of holes and say, okay, here's my idea, what do you think? And then when they tear it apart, and this isn't comfortable, I'll just tell you, and people have a hard time doing this in general, and I still do, but I'll say, I'm going to take this idea to you, and I want to see what you say, because if I get the other perspective of it, then I can make it a better idea in a lot of ways. So it's a combination of, I mean, I look for people that are like-minded, they want to have the same kind of energetic, student-centered approach to everything, but also I'm always looking for the other side of it. Not that they don't necessarily want that, but they're more like pragmatists. They're not really the ones that are going to be saying, oh, great, that's great, Carl, some crazy idea. They're going to be the ones that say, okay, but how will you do it? What are the steps you're going to need to take? How much is it going to cost? Those kind of things. So you need that kind of balance, I think, to get any idea off the ground, though.
Right. All right, taking it out of the workplace. I mean, that series of questions was definitely workplace. But if you look over our entire field, like educational technology, professional development, what bothers you the most about our field now?
Wow. About ed tech or education?
I want to stick with ed tech because education, we can get into a lot of things. I want to just stick directly right into instructional technology, educational technology. What do you have, what bothers you the most about the current state of educational technology?
It's the same thing that's been going on for probably the last 15 years, and it's the people that want to get into a device battle. And I mean, there's an article for the Huffington Post that came out a couple days ago about the great device debate, and they actually asked me to write it. They're like, oh, tell us why, iPads are better than Chromebooks, or tell us why. And I didn't take the bait. I was like, you know what, it's not about that. And I think we still get hung up in that a lot. And I look at Twitter feeds, and it's, there's articles that scathe the iPad, or they're anti-Chromebook, or they're in favor of Windows 8 tablets, or, there's not very many of those actually, but there's still a lot. But there's still a lot. That concept has been around forever. I mean, Mac versus PC, and then you always have like kind of the Linux people that pop up too. And so I feel like we spend so much time on that we're missing the bigger picture of like how do we actually integrate all this stuff with pedagogy, and how do we actually make actual energetic, engaging content, and why do we always have to be the ones that make it? Why don't the kids make it? So I think we're getting closer to that point as more schools allow devices, as more go to one-to-one. It won't matter the device very soon, I think, once we get a web, pretty much everything. But it's still something we're kind of hung up on. And I'm sure when that goes away, it'll be something else. It's going to be browser. Are you a Firefox or a Chrome person or whatever? It'll just change. I wish we wouldn't do that. But I guess that's in our human nature, too. Coke versus Pepsi,
Yeah, true.
Count Chocula versus Blueberry. No. What's the strawberry one? Frankenberry. Blueberry was like the third flavor that you could always had to look for. Like it was hard to find it. Kind of like a Linux or a Windows tablet. See how I tied that all together right there? Yeah.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I find it interesting too because you mentioned that it's the age-old question of which device is the best device, and I guess the contradictory question is, it's interesting that you say that, and you're a district that went one-to-one with a specific device. So how do you stick to your guns in your comment with what you, as a district, have done going with the one-to-one initiative? If it's not about the specific device, and if there's the argument that it's a specific device, and you're in a district that has picked a specific device, what is another conversation, maybe?
I think first of all, the beauty of getting one single device, and what I'm saying is the argument doesn't need to be like which is better or worse. I think the argument should be like, what do we do with it when we have it? So if you did decide to go all Google Chromebooks or all iPads or all tablets of some sort or anything, at that point, you should just ignore the argument about which is better, which is worse. At that point, you need to make what you have the best. And having that ubiquity in terms of our district has been great because training is all universal. Everybody knows a common language, and you've gotten rid of some low-hanging fruit, and now you can really start to really excel into that next level of higher-level thinking, and the M and the R on the SAMR ladder, or the SAMR scale, or the SAMR pool, as I call it. So taking those ideas and concepts and really pushing them forward. But I think what we end up doing is we end up stubbing our toe on the idea of we have to make the right choice on the device, or otherwise, something will go wrong. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the device needs to work. I mean, remember the netbook craze of about 4 years ago? I mean, or I should say, some ISD that's near here that's fairly large has like.
We can bleep that, maybe.
Yeah. Bleep.
In post-production, we'll bleep that.
Thank you. I mean, they purchased 20,000 of those things, and they sat in closets, and you can buy all these things, but if there's no buy-in, there's no idea behind how it's going to be used. I mean, they could have made that work. There's a way to make that work. Don't get me wrong. But everybody always thinks we'll throw it out there and see what happens magically, and it happens with iPads too. I mean, it happens with Chromebooks. For everyone that's a success, there's a failure because people just thought, I'll just throw them out there and watch change happen. So rather than spending all our energy looking at, it's got to be this perfect device at this perfect, temperature with this age level of kids, instead it should be, let's figure out what are we going to do when we actually get something in our hands. That should be thought of well before you actually get to the device part.
Amen, brother. All right, let's go back in time. It's 1983, computers. Well, the idea of computer is different in 1983 than it is now, but they're starting to make their way into the classroom, into schools. The educational leaders of the time are not us. I mean, 1983, I was not out of college.
I was 8. I was 8.
Yeah, I was like in elementary school.
Yeah, 3rd grade.
I was there when they were loading those big honking things in. But let's go back to that time, and they're starting to bring computers in for the first time into schools. What advice now would you have for the people who are us then, like the people in charge of bringing computers into schools for the first time?
I don't know that we could give them great advice, because in some ways you're only limited by what they have. I mean, so if they only have, you only have so much space in schools. There's always some initiative that's happening, but a lot of times I thought the first gut reaction is to put them into computer labs, which, if you have limited resources, that makes sense because it gives everybody some small level of exposure. I think, then the next thing they went to was that whole let's put a bank of 4 of them in the back of the room, and that'll give every class some little level of exposure. Ideally, they should have one computer for every one of those kids, but those things are so big, there's no way you could do that, or have some sort of availability of access. So, I think the big thing is, I would say, make sure that there is a way for kids to access it when they need to access it, not necessarily a scheduled set, let's go for 45 minutes on typing. And honestly, the tools in the 1983, you're talking pre-Commer in San Diego, so there's not like a lot of really creative things happening there. But I think you still make sure they stay focused on the instructional need and instructional purpose, rather than a one-off thing. And I think it's been a one-off thing for almost as long as I can remember, but lately it's been shifting to where now it's like technology is a layer around everything, rather than we're going to teach our social studies, we're going to teach our science, and then we'll teach computer. So that would be my advice to them, would be start to keep it focused. It took me a while to get there, but I'm there now. Thanks, Joel. Try to make the technology invisible and try to make it a part of everything you do. Don't just make it a one-off thing.
It's hard to make it invisible when that computer is the size of your desk.
I feel the heat coming off of that thing, and electricity. Yeah,
how do I make it invisible when I have to replace the tape every 15 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about advice. Someone new, a brand new educational technology person coming in out of college. What advice do you have for them?
Well, this one's perfect because we're actually hiring ed techs right now in our district, and we just did our final round of we're getting ready to do our final round of interviews, and so I sent out the regret kind of email to those that didn't make it, and one of them replied and said, "Hey, could you tell me what advice would you have for me just trying to get out there in the field?" And so I said, well, I'd really focus on kind of 3 things. One, the most important is build your brand, and this is something that didn't exist maybe 5-10 years ago because social media has really helped us a lot. And when I say build your brand, I mean that there's a fine line between self-promotion and actually just sharing good ideas. And so part of that brand building would be my second bit of advice, which is take risks. Take risks that you're willing to try, and also publish in some sense. Like say, hey, I'm going to try this with my class. We'll see how it goes. If it was a great idea, share it. If it's a bad idea, share that too. Share, like, this is what I did, this is how I messed up, but I want to share these ideas with the world, not only with the world, but also with your colleagues in your district. We've started having lots of our teachers blog, which has helped a ton with getting other teachers on board with ideas, because, I could write an idea and people are like, well, you sit in that office and that's probably all you think about, which isn't true. But if a teacher comes up with it and actually spends the time to reflect on it, it's a powerful thing, and I think other teachers get on board with that. And then, so my two things were what? Okay, build a brand, take risks. Oh, and then my third one is really, get out there in front of people and try to train. Go ahead and apply and go to these events. There's lots of opportunities. There's ed camps. There's TCA. There's lots of different areas where you can go to and actually just try to present an idea. And don't make it always the most comfortable idea. I think starting out, you may want to say something I'm really familiar with. But Joel and we've talked about this the other day about trying crazy things out now. We want to just go to an event and try something we've never talked about, like dressing up like a zombie, or I'm not sure what you're going to dress up as next time, but who knows?
No telling.
Yeah, no telling. This is for kids, right? So I think, you and I are at that point now where we want to continue to push ourselves. And I think if you're first getting out there, you just start with something you're very comfortable with, but then expand it a little bit. And I think that'll get you more comfort in presenting with adults, because it's about making those connections, and it's not easy. I mean, teachers have gone into the field and said, this is so much harder than teaching kids. Why did I ever agree to do this? But yeah, if you're a teacher just now getting started, or if you're in the field a little bit and you want to get into ed tech, I would say, try those three things: brand building, risk taking, and then kind of out there public speaking.
Oh, you should write a blog on that.
I know, it'd be good.
That would be good.
Hold on a second.
Well, and that's the thing.
Notes.
You and I, we interact with people that are asking for advice a lot.
Yes.
Through Twitter, through email, you get a call, and there's that general idea of people now starting to kind of come into the field for the first time. And what advice would I give to someone who's coming in for the first time? Because for me, I mean, my degree was in English, I never really got trained in how to do anything. So your advice is sound advice. I appreciate that. I do think that would be a good blog post about what the next generation of ed techers should be doing.
I think, it's a good idea to use blogs for those, especially when you get repetitive questions. I'll get that one I don't get too often, but the other one I get a lot is from companies that say, hey, I want to really, how do I break in with K-12? How do I get my company on the map? And so I pretty much have a default answer for that now, but I thought, man, that just needs to be a post, and I could just say, hey, here's the post, read it, and this is all my advice for you, because they want to know. And it's hard because they don't have insider knowledge a lot of times. So yeah, that's a good idea. I think I put it it's now on my list of, there's all the blog posts I'm going to write. I've got a list of about, I got to delete some of these, but there's about 25 on there. My phone is weird there.
Why don't you create a position in your district for someone just to write your blog posts?
Was it Kramer had he had an intern? I should have an intern. Go take up my laundry, take care of the chickens. If I needed, I could have some chickens. Yeah, that's a great idea. Kramerica Industries, Hooker Industries. Oh wait, no, that wouldn't work.
No, we'll work on that one.
Yeah.
What question or comment do you tire of hearing from teachers?
Comment would be, is this, I guess the one I hear, I haven't heard as much lately, we've been better about it, but I think it's, oh, this is just one more thing, and it too shall pass. And the flip side of that, or this kind of on that same vein, is, well, this is just always the way I've done it. What do they call that? Twaddy, right? T-W-A-D-D-I, or something like that, spells out. And those two things, that kind of complacency and just kind of not willing to try a new idea, really kind of bothers me. But then what I try to do is I take their perspective and say, this is a teacher who's been in the classroom for 180 days with kids. They're exhausted. We just did a training yesterday, which I absolutely loved, and where we got up and we worked on stuff. It was like a maker training. We built our own furniture out of cardboard. It was crazy. But I really wanted to kind of make sure each one of them had some time to really think about, what is all this for? Why are we doing this? And so having the time to reflect was important, rather than just shoving tools kind of down their throat. And so a lot of it, when I look out at the window at teachers and make judgments, I'm also looking at the mirror and saying, what is it that I'm asking them to do, and what is it that I can change to make that better for them, to give them some more time in their day, and to not make this just one more thing. that actually help them solve those problems. And there's a challenge. It doesn't always work. I'll admit it. Sometimes you just come across as, okay, they're shutting down. You can tell they're not going to listen at this point. So you have to stop, regroup, and try again later.
Or you just, in the staff development, give everyone the credit, go home with a piece of candy.
I had a principal in an old district that used to do that when she would yell at us about stuff, and then the next day we would all have these sticky buns in our mailboxes, and it was like famous for. So we always used to make jokes behind her back about how you got to go do this. Hey, here's a sticky bun, and we get real excited. So whenever she knew she made us really mad, she put sticky buns in our, and like they aren't even the good ones, they weren't like the really nice Denneman's cakes. They were like these really bad Hostess sticky buns. But anyway,
gas station ones.
Yes.
The questions I'm in now are kind of the James Lipton, from the what is that show?
Yeah, I love this. Yeah.
Inside the Actor's Studio.
I didn't see these before now, and I just scrolled down. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, they're adapted. They're remixed, if you will.
I like it.
What is your favorite thing to hear inside a training?
Yes. Usually said like that.
Say it again.
Yes. Like they're real excited. Yes. Or like, that kind of aha. I mean, no one actually ever says that. Have you noticed that? They call it the aha moment. No one goes, aha. No.
I know. I'm still waiting to hear that.
But it's the aha moment. The word is usually yes. That's what I hear is when people get excited about something. You can hear kind of the elevated pitch in their voice when they get. I love to hear that because that tells me that I reached somebody and they just got it.
Or you get the, oh.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
That's nice. All right. So, I read that bio at the very beginning. All your different accomplishments, successes. For you, what is your defining moment of success?
Well, I know I haven't gotten there yet. And it's not President of the United States because I would never want that job. But I definitely think my defining moment of success is going to be is not going to be very professional. Not saying I'm going to be unprofessional about it. I would say my defining moment of success would be when the educational system has really moved to this idea of personalized, student-centered learning in such a way that it affects my own kids. My daughter, my oldest, is about to enter kindergarten next year here in the same district that I'm at. And so for me, I feel like I will be successful if I have prepared her teachers with the right tools to help her be a better student, be a better person in life. And then, so for me, my success will be whatever they turn out to be when they get older, when they get out of school, whether it be college or not, whatever they do in life. I just want them to be happy and successful. And so that's simple, but it's also probably the hardest thing I could ever do because it takes hours upon hours of time of my day and frustration and text messages back and forth with my wife and how do we make these kids actually do what we want them to do, because they're little individual beings too. We just realize that they aren't animals. So I would say for me that would be my ultimate success is if my kids grow up and they're happy, successful people and I've left behind something for them, not necessarily a legacy, but some sort of change that helped them in life because of something directly I did. I'm going to start crying, so I got to stop.
Yeah.
I put on the sunglasses now. Thanks.
But what would you say? I'm going to redirect the question. What would you say so far? What moment in your time span now was your most thrilling, successful moment?
I think having dinner with Sir Ken Robinson last year was a big kind of like wow moment. I was like, we took an event based on a word, based on a website, and just started promoting it, making things up kind of as it were. We told his people that there was going to be 1,000 people there, which wasn't true the year before. There's only 400. So we lied about that just to get him to believe that it was a big event and then convince him to come, at which point there were 1,000 people that did show up because he was coming. So sitting there at dinner the night before with my whole team, with our admin staff, and just and everyone kept saying, "Oh, do you want to go sit? You should go sit by him and talk to him at dinner." And I was like, "No, I wanted all of them to sit by him and talk to him." And he was gracious. He went and made the rounds. He talked to everybody, and people kept saying, "Oh, you need to go talk to him. You're the one who got him here." I was like, I'm in heaven, sitting back, watching everyone's kind of faces light up, having conversations with this man who we all very much admire. And so for me, I thought that was it. That was a moment. I was like, this was all created out of our minds to get us to this point. And so to me, that was a big success. I just love that, that he was there and we were able to do that.
We're going to diverge. Describe your most difficult professional failure.
This is always hard. The failure question.
Don't fail the fail question.
I won't fail it. I mean, I think I try to advertise my failures a lot of times, and I'll turn them into positives. I do the top 10 things not to do in a one-to-one. I think there are times in that one-to-one deployment early on, especially where we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants, trying to get it because there wasn't much out there that we could use as an idea of like how did this work better? I mean, laptops have been around forever, but not iPads. What is this? And so there has been times where we've done something and it just didn't work out, and it just a total bust, a total failure. I mean, specifically, I would say probably mostly with parents in terms of getting that communication out to them early enough. We did not do that anywhere near as much, which is why I'm so motivated by it now. I'm always trying to figure out new ways to get in touch with parents. But back then, I just felt like, we had a parent night. We thought that would be great. I think we just totally, and I say me mostly, I totally underestimated the impact of this on the home life. And so I totally failed in that aspect. And have been recovering ever since, and I feel like I'm still working on that. So sometimes, failure is good, especially if you learn from it. And that was one of those times that I could definitely remember vividly, feeling that kind of pain and frustration going home and saying, man, what am I doing here? This isn't working. I got to figure out something. So I was close.
It reminded me of when the first time I did my Tech Palooza, which was, good Lord, it was a while back. But I remember distinctly the participants were arriving. They were already gathering in the large room where we were starting out. And it was like about 10 minutes before it was starting. And I mean, I was like just sick. I was just nauseous. And I went into a room, like off down a hallway. And I like got away from the door, away from the window. I didn't want anyone to see me. And it was like the Jack from Lost. Did you ever watch Lost?
Yes.
Remember Jack, where he said you have that 10 seconds where you have complete fear.
Yep.
It was literally that, where I was just like in the corner, just having a freak out before this bit. And I literally was like, just the worst case scenario is it's a bust, and like your friend, everyone gets a sweet honey bun or whatever the next day.
Yeah.
We'll just cancel it early and give everyone credit. That's the worst case scenario. And I just had to like go there. And then once that was over, once that little 12-second, 10-second thing was over, it was like, it was fine, it was fine. But, we all have failures and everything along with it. But I mean, I like what you're saying about it. You have the good things, you try to get what comes out of it. Like, you take the positives and you go, well, what did I learn from it? And let me share that.
Well, and I took your advice when you shared that story with me before about Tech Palooza, and I remember last year I was going through a similar moment during our event, and so I did. I went and hid. I had to come back up to my office from the campus, and I had to get some things, and I was like, I'm going to shut the door and just kind of focus. I wasn't so much scared as I was like, I just needed a moment to think and really enjoy it, and I felt like I wasn't enjoying it. And so this year my goal has been I want to enjoy it too, because I felt like last year I was so stressed out that it was great for everybody. I wanted everyone to have a good time. When you want 1,000 specific people to have a good time, it's so hard to make that actually happen. So this year I'm like, I'm going to present. I'm going to give more of it to other people to help out with and just kind of share the experience. I'll probably still be stressed, but I put myself in there as a presenter this time. I was like, I want to be a part of this event, not just be the person that's like putting out fires the whole time, because I think it should be an enjoyable thing for everybody, including me.
Sure. Well, and I think I wonder for the same in this, which is even when I was teaching and I would develop lessons, in my head I would like picture specific students, and when I plan staff development, I always go through the role beforehand, and I kind of have a visual of these people. Like when you are looking at Tech Palooza or any type of training event, do you have specific people that you kind of flip through in your mind and go, I wonder how they're going to take this?
Yeah, when I've done, and it's especially lately when I'm doing speaking at other states and in other districts, I've started realizing, that's like I take for granted what kind of great teachers we have here, and I'll go off to these other districts, and they're great too, but they have totally different ideals, totally different cultures and expectations, and I have no background history at all with them. So I try to visualize, like, okay, what's this going to be like? I know there's 150 people in the room. They're all middle school teachers. What's the context of it? Were they dragged here because they're forced to be in the room? What is it? So, and then in the first 5 minutes, I usually make a point of making some really like jabs at myself, and I have a last name that helps with that, and it breaks the audience up a little bit and makes them realize that I'm not so serious, and they can be a little more relaxed, and that seems to open things up. But visualization's a big part of what I do too, and with our opening event, with the opening keynote next week, I've been spending a lot of time visualizing this thing I'm going to try to do, and not knowing if it'll work, and honestly it may not. It's probably 90% sure that it won't work, but I'm going to try it anyway, just to see if I can actually do it.
Why not? I mean,
it's a tease, but yeah.
You got it. I mean, that's the fun part of our job is you really do get to try things out, and it's like we said, you got to be flexible not only with developing for an audience that's different, but you got to be flexible enough to allow yourself to fail.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, did we ever do that? We did the PowerPoint karaoke that time at TechSig, right?
Yep.
I've used that so much with like superintendents and leadership, and I've actually gotten a superintendent or two to do it in front of their staff, and say, I've told them, I go, you know what, you win no matter what with this, because if these pictures are coming up and you lose your train of thought, or it's embarrassing and you just fall over because you just can't imagine it. Everyone laughs and everyone loves you for it, and if you nail it and you hit all the points, everyone's like, wow, this person's a creative genius. I say, either way, that's a great activity to do, because you're always seen as something better because you've taken the risk in front of all these people. So it's rare that a leader will do that sometimes, because there's a lot of ego there about failure, but when you have one that's willing to, I think that's great. And I'm more often than not, I always say my life is an open book that nobody wants to read. So I think for me, I always like to take those risks, and unfortunately for others, I like to take them openly and in front of thousands of people.
That's the way to do it. I got no problem with that.
Fail big or go home.
Big, fail hard, fail fast.
Yes.
We have two more questions from our list here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. I really like this question. When you are evaluated on your job performance, is there a question missing that you wish your supervisor would delve into, or is there a topic that you feel is missing from your professional evaluation?
Yeah, well, evaluation, I've spent a lot of time on that with my own team. My evaluation is very standard, which I've never liked. It's like, here's the things, you're proficient, you're great. I really wish it was more built on goal setting. So I've done that with my team, where I say, what are some just basic goals? What are 3 things you want to try to do next year, and what are things that I can do to help you with those goals? I really wish that was kind of a part of every evaluation. And then just don't forget it. I mean, make it actually, if you make more than 3, it's probably okay, but you don't want to go too crazy. And then ask to focus on one of those. So since I don't actually do that in my own evaluation, what I did instead is I told the team my 3 things. I said, you guys are going to be holding me accountable for this. Here are my 3 things that I want to do, and here's the one I really want to focus on. And then we revisit it mid-year, we revisit it at the beginning of the year, we revisit it at the end of the year, and see how did we do on those accomplishments, and just setting a goal out there, verbalizing it, making it actually something, and then owning it. That's so much more tangible than just saying, I want my kids' scores to go up 0.3%. I mean, that's definitely a goal too, but I feel like we need to involve more passion in what we're doing. So however you can do that in an evaluation is great. Like, what's something that inspires you, and what can you do to involve that more in your work, to have those kind of passion projects. I'm lucky. I have a lot of that, and there's a lot of flexibility here for me to do that, but not everybody is as lucky.
That's good. That's something I'm trying to develop into the staff development that I'm doing. I'm going into a new district, and I'm going in a position that was created, and so I'm able to provide staff development. But that concept of creating a tangible initiation of what your goal is, like, that's something I want to try to incorporate into staff development, where when the teacher is in the room, we're kind of in the big idea space. We're in the trial and error phase. And what I want to be able to have all the teachers do is to literally go and take what they're learning and apply it into their schedule, and then let me know the schedule and let me know when can I be there to help, or come see how it goes, or give you tips, or just be on hand to be supportive, because I kind of see that with staff development more, of helping them take the learning and make it tangible,
Right.
and applying it, and then helping me build that schedule to where I'm not stuck at my desk all the time. And I can be at campuses because we're actually putting into effect something we talked about in staff development,
That's my biggest, and that's another failure that just came up in my mind, is I want to be on campuses more, and every year I say I'm going to do that. And I've subbed a couple of classes just for a little while, but not like a full day. And so we've got some ideas about doing that next year. I would love to do more of that. Subbing, maybe pulling teachers in during the middle of the day, and then having some of our team actually take over their class for a little bit, so it doesn't cost the district anything in terms of sub pay, so that our team actually gets to work with kids one-to-one, and then at the same time we get to pull those teachers in. They don't have to worry about sub plans. I mean, we can help them. So trying to figure out a way to make that work. I've got a great team that could do that. And then me personally being a part of that and actually going down and subbing and doing this, because we come up with these great ideas on high as admin. You know this a lot, and it's like, you don't actually see where it goes to the end user sometimes. You're like, this is great. We're going to go one-to-one iPads. Oh, you mean there's problems with distraction? Oh, don't worry, just do this. But you're not actually living it. So, I mean, doing more of that is something I want to do. I always say that's my goal. It'll be my number one goal again next year. And I'll figure out, sooner or later, I'll figure out how to make it work once I clone myself.
Well, you got to get an intern to start writing your blogs for you. That's first step.
Those blogs come at about 10 o'clock at night usually, but yeah.
Maybe you need an intern in the shower to collect your idea. No.
There you go.
That's not. I don't think.
How did that work out for Bill Clinton?
The final question is, what is your legacy? Like, Carl Hooker retires, or God forbid,
when I'm 43.
Whatever. Oceanic disappears from the planet. What's the legacy you leave behind for Eanes? And what's the legacy you leave behind for all of our colleagues?
Man, what a heavy question to throw on me.
It's the last one, too.
It is the last one. No softballs here. I think, I mean, in a perfect world, I inspire people to do things that they weren't willing to do before, willing to take risks. And so when I'm gone and long off the face of this earth, I hope that there's still some semblance of that kind of culture of idea of risk-taking that I've started here, that I've kind of cultivated here, that I've spread throughout my team, and they've done the same thing on their campuses, and it's kind of like figured out a way to keep that kind of that magic, I don't know, fire, if you will, burning inside everybody, and figuring out a way to make that sustainable. So before I do leave, I want to make sure that there's something that can continue on, and it doesn't just die when I'm gone, because that's the biggest problem I see with a lot of big ideas that people come up with. Is like, well, Steve Jobs is a perfect example, and I'm nowhere near him, obviously, but he left, and then everything kind of just fell apart because they felt like it was all tied to him. So I want something to where if I do go, you wouldn't notice it, as silly as that sounds. The motivation, the momentum, all that stuff would just continue to carry on even though I'm not here. And then people can go back and say, wow, it all kind of started when, remember when Carl started kind of getting us to do this and try this crazy thing, and we did this crazy event, and we did all this stuff to really get the kids going. They could kind of harken back to that, and that's great. But I really think to have a legacy, it needs to be long-lasting. So if it just leaves when I leave, that's no good at all.
iPad Palooza 25.
Yeah, that's a legacy that won't last very much longer. I mean, because it's the title itself dates it.
Right. It'll be, who knows what it'll be.
Google Glass Palooza.
Yes, something. Fitbit 29. The
Fitbit Festival.
Yeah, Fitbit Festival. Well, Carl, I'm going to tell you, it's good talking to you again. It's a little more formal than our last conversation over at Red's Porch, but
oh yeah, yes.
it's always good to talk to you. And the whole idea behind this was, as much as we all tweet, blog, or if you're interviewed by a major magazine, I mean, we don't really get to the story behind the person,
Right.
And that's really what this was to be about. And I'm hoping that people that viewed this got a little more insight into Carl.
More than they wanted.
No, I think it was good. And I want you to know, like, for iPad Palooza, I'm one of many other volunteers that's willing to help out. You know, we want the event to be successful because we believe in you, we believe in Ian's, we believe in your team. And I'm not on the paycheck anymore, but I still believe in that district and what y'all are doing and want to see it be successful. And I know that a lot of the people that are going want it to be successful for you. So just let us know how we can help you.
That means a lot. It really does. It's hard for me to ask for help, and that's always been a problem of mine. So when people reach out for it, I've been doing a better job of that. But I think, yeah, it takes. Well, I saw it last year when more people helped out. It became such a better event than just me having to run everything. And I think every year I want to continue to keep that going. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. And thanks for doing this too. I think this is a great idea. I like the kind of concept of the post cross interview, that kind of thing. Will come up. I mean, the PLPLearn, right? Is that the hashtag or is that the Twitter handle?
It's all of it. It's hashtag, website, everything.
That's all. See, it's easy branding right there. I like it. So, great idea. I like that you got it started, and I do want to hear more about what other people do, what their backgrounds are. It's funny how we've all kind of ended up in these spots, and we all went totally different routes to get there for the most part. But there's some commonalities too. So.
Well, you're doing the next one. You're the next one.
That's right.
You have to pick a person.
I've got a couple favorites right now in mind, and I'm going to reach out to the state of Texas for these. So I'm debating between a couple.
You don't say the names, don't.
Okay, a couple people from the Northeast, and then one person from the Bay Area. I'm in between three of them right now, so I'm thinking that'll be one of those folks. Just because I want to hear their perspective. I know them a little bit, just enough to be dangerous, but I really want to get to know them better. Sure. And just kind of hear what their background is and see what they have to offer. So I'll be borrowing some of your questions and rebranding, remixing them.
What I'll do is I'm going to take all the questions that I had behind the scenes. I had written them up in a Google Doc and shared them with Carl. I'm going to post those on our website, which is p2plearn.org. I'll post them there, and then anyone can kind of see them. I've already talked to a librarian or two that are interested in starting to do a dialogue between librarians. And we're looking for anyone in education that wants to start for their section. It could be a campus technologist talking to other campus technologists. It could be a network director talking to other network directors. I mean, it really is just kind of a place where we're going to curate all these conversations.
That would be an exciting conversation.
That would be interesting.
A lot of ones O's.
But really, the website is just a place to kind of curate all those conversations into like spread out channels. It's kind of a community place. So if you're interested in contributing content to it, just let me know. I am Mr. Adkins on Twitter. I'm going to Crandall ISD in about 3 days. Actually, I'm moving right before iPad Palooza. Like, if that tells you anything, I am committed to iPad Palooza.
I appreciate that.
Congratulations
on the new job, too.
I am moving on Friday and then coming back down to the southern part of Texas for iPad Palooza and then going right back up to unpack the boxes and everything that I moved. So.
Well, I'll have a T-shirt and a sticky bun waiting for you.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to plug all your stuff again, Carl. You can find Carl at Mr. Hooker on Twitter, and he's on hookedoninnovation.com. You can also grab him for consulting gigs, pretty good, at edtechteacher.org. And iPad Palooza is next week. That is at iPadPalooza.com as well. Carl, thanks, brother.
Thank you so much. Y'all take care. Have a good day.
Ciao.